The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While we discuss topics related to mental health, well-being, and emotional support, we are not providing therapy or medical services. Always seek the advice of your physician, psychologist, psychiatrist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are in crisis, feeling unsafe, or need immediate support, please contact a mental health professional or emergency services in your area. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organizations or institutions.
Get inspired, get motivated with M.A.Y.A and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward thinking, thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find M.A.Y.A on Twitter and Instagram at M.A.Y.A_Akai. On Facebook at M.A.Y.A Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A_Akai.com.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to episode 67. I kind of lost my step there for a bit, but I'm back on track. But this one is a good one that I really have worked on for a bit because the things that bring me to come and talk to you are the things that I hear when I put my ear to the ground, especially when I'm doing therapy with people, or if I just might be watching what I'm seeing on social media. And then it comes to me, this is something that I feel I need to talk about because I hear it in therapy with clients, but I'm hearing people talk about their struggles with it. Understanding the importance of self-worth and how it is different than self-esteem. And it's something that people take for granted. I understand that there's nothing about mental wellness talk that's sexy to anybody. This is only interesting to people when they're in crisis. Other than this, trying to normalize a conversation about why you need to take care of yourself from the neck up, just like you should take care of yourself from the neck down, can be lost on people. The whole point of the podcast I do here is to address significant topics that are mental health, mental wellness related from an innovative and progressive perspective. M.A.Y.A, my ambition, your ambition. I often aim to demystify things like self-doubt, self-sabotage, common affliction that many people have in their lives so that you can facilitate and identify the ambition that drives you. So many people don't know what their passion and purpose is. When you tune into an episode of M.A.Y.A, that's exactly what I want to help you to understand. And one of the things I'm big about is the toolbox that we have in the show. But of course, before we jump into all that, we've got to do our housekeeping stuff. So remember, there are 67, 66 other episodes of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. You can always go and find everything M.A.Y.A at www.maya-speaks.com. If you're a true podcaster, pretty much you can find me on every podcast platform there is: iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audibles, and Spotify. All you do is have to search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and you'll see all my previous episodes there. Of course, I would implore that you do subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. It is M.A.Y.A Speaks to You, because it's important. If you like to see, not just here, you can do that as well. So, but of course, it's easy to find everything M.A.Y.A. Just go to maya-speak.com and boom, everything you want is there. So let's just jump right into episode 67. Understanding self-worth and self-esteem. This is something that I will tell you that you need to put into your M.A.Y.A toolbox. So this is toolbox time. And I say this with every episode I've ever done. What I need for you to do pretty much is pull out your M.A.Y.A toolbox, because every show there's something we put in it. The last episode we did, 66, we talked about self-compassion, something a lot of people don't have for themselves, and they wonder why they self-doubt and self-sabotage so frequently. So in this toolbox, it's all about emotional intelligence, because self-worth and self-esteem are emotions that drive so much of what we do. So remember, when we talk about emotional intelligence, as we refer to it as EI, it's the ability to manage both your own emotions but more importantly, to understand the emotions of other people around you. See, that's the part right there that can get lost on people. You may understand how you feel, but can be lost on why the other person may feel how they do. This is where, when you have, I would say, a solid level, a high level of EI, you're going to thrive in ways in your life that you never anticipated. Because some key things to know about EI is that some of the key components that literally should be in your toolbox are things like self awareness, self control, compassion, empathy. These are all things that when you are loading up your toolbox, these are things that should be in it. But the key thing about this toolbox is how you use it. Because when you have good EI, but when you're aspiring to great EI, which is always possible, it means your capacity to be aware of how you feel, control how you feel, and express your emotions in a healthy way is key. And then, because you can do those things, you're able to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously, but with empathy. And some of those toolbox staples I talked about are awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy. But here's the big thing: social and communication skills. Those are all things you want in your toolbox. And those are things that we are going to jump into the show today and we're going to talk about. We're about to put in that toolbox self worth and self esteem. So let's jump right into it. What exactly is self worth? I mean, I feel like we feel we're all connected and we understand it. Okay, so let me give you the Webster's dictionary version of what self worth is. It's the belief that you are good, worthy, and lovable, regardless to what external circumstances or achievements say. See, that's the key thing right there. Let's do it one more time. It is the belief that you have about yourself that you are good, you are worthy, and you are lovable, regardless to what the outside noise and static says. It isn't about status. It isn't about achievement. It isn't necessarily about environment, though all those things can pour into you. But what they can be poured into your cup might not be what you want to fill it. And that's part of the toolbox piece that you really got to start to think about. That self awareness piece is a big tool that you need in your box. So I'm going to say it one more time because I need it to stick. Self worth is the belief that you are good, worthy, and lovable, regardless to what external circumstance or achievements might say. So ultimately, what that is saying in a nutshell is that self worth is internal. It encompasses how you believe in yourself inherently. It's your value, it's your lovability, it's independent of life events. And I understand most people might say, well, that's real difficult because our life is absolutely intertwined with so many experiences. Yes, environment and people are important. There is something that I actually posted on my Facebook page, which you can follow, which is Maya Speaks to You on Facebook. It's a page that's totally about mental health and mental awareness. And I posted something there. I post at least an inspirational thought at least once a week because I don't do more than that because I want that thought to sink in. And the thought for last week was the people around you are either your circle or they're your cage. Now, think about that. If it's a circle, it means they are supporting you. There is love. It doesn't mean they're not going to be honest. Because, by the way, when you have a circle, what that doesn't mean is that there may not be conflict, confusion, and disagreement. Even within your healthiest relationship, those things are going to happen. But when you have good emotional intelligence and when you have a solid rapport and relationship with someone, it's how you can navigate those difficult waters to sustain those relationships. And that's where growth takes place. So, circle versus cage. Cage is where you feel closed in, not supported, not appreciated, not respected. If you find yourself that those are feelings you have in relationship dynamics, whether they're personal relationships or professional relationships, look for the door in the cage so you can get out because you need to fly free and find a circle versus your cage. And that's the thing about self worth. If you don't value you, you may not be able to distinguish the difference between a circle and a cage because they're both round. And you may not see what's above because you might be looking at what's below. A little deep, but my daily inspiration at Maya-speaks2you.com. It's a blog there. You can go and see the daily inspiration. You can find it on my Facebook page, Maya Speaks to You. Either way, whether you go to my page or you go to the daily inspiration blog that's on my website, it's something good there. So let that soak in. So it's that internal feeling you have for yourself that you believe inherently you are good, you value who you are, you feel you deserve to be loved, and it is independent of life events. So a lot of people who struggle with self-worth don't think they deserve things. You always hear someone say, I don't think I deserve love. I don't think I deserve to be respected. This is so often why imposter syndrome can seep into people, because when you don't value yourself, you really will not see that you've worked to achieve something. But yet, if you don't get external validation, it's hard for some people to embrace the hard work and effort they have put into something. So hence things like imposter syndrome can occur for some people. Something we'll have to talk about one day too, because a lot of people I hear that and I'm like, based on what you just told me, it sounds like you've accomplished a lot of things and you are worthy of the accolades you have received. So I'm kind of struggling to figure out why you are the one who are not willing to embrace the things that you have accomplished. So self-worth is internal. So then let's slightly flip it on its side. Well, then what is self esteem? Because they're often two things that people believe are interchangeable. Well, let's Webster this up too. So self esteem involves your thoughts and your feelings, just like self worth does. But the level of confidence that you have is not as stable or consistent because they're influenced by external factors. So your value comes from others versus from you understanding what you bring to the table. See, that's when you have those people who have that conversation who says, and it kind of sounds maybe narcissistic to some people, look, I know what I bring to the table. So don't sit here and talk to me like I'm not bringing something of value. That's a person who has self worth, or at least their self awareness is rising. One of the two. And I think that's where a lot of people begin to struggle because they just don't see themselves in that light that they need to. So when somebody has self-worth, self-esteem just can't topple it. No, it doesn't mean your self-worth doesn't waver when you make a mistake, because it can. But what's key to understand is that internally you're going to have that bounce back. So if we dig a little deeper and we talk more about self-esteem, then it describes specifically the thoughts and the feelings about yourself, but it involves your thoughts and feelings are driven by outside forces, which again, it can be not stable because you depend heavily on the outer world of people and tasks and external information to figure out who you are. So at that point, depending on the day, the week, the month, the experience, the people, you can waver in what you come to believe about yourself. And that's a dangerous place to stand. Now, at the same time, I'm not saying that self esteem, because most people believe that self esteem is good because they think it's self worth. But self esteem can be healthy when it is balanced with self worth. So, the thing that makes, and this is what's so important, what makes them similar is that they are both rooted in thought and feeling. So when I posted the show on social media, this was the graphic that was there. And I think it's an important graphic because to me, this really embodies so much of how they are interconnected. It shows a tree. So if you happen to be listening to this episode, I'm going to create a visualization for you. It's a tree with leaves. And at the root of that tree is where self worth sits. Any tree that does not have deep roots is going to struggle, one, to be healthy and grow. But if a good storm comes along, it could be ripped out. Now, mind you, I've seen some trees that definitely had some age on them and some deep roots. And I have seen some storms come along and rip them out. So I'm not going to say it's not possible. But the idea behind it is that deep roots into the ground, it gives you stability. And it's where you grow because you get the nutrients, you get the sunlight, you get the water that you need to thrive. You know, that's a key thing that most people don't know when you talk about toolbox is what is it that you need to grow and thrive and not just survive? Because I think a lot of people sit in survival mode way longer than they realize. And I think they get it confused or they normalize it and think that that's the best that life has to offer. Well, it might if you're not willing to step out your comfort zone and seek something more if you don't feel that you're not happy. So, self worth is the root of the tree that allows you to grow upward. And as you spring forth into the world, you will encounter people and get accomplishments and achievements. And this is where self-esteem, which is not bad, can grow. But you have to be careful that if you can only value your accomplishments through the lens of others, then that accomplishment may not hold for you. Hence, this is where imposter syndrome can step in. But if you can put your chest out and be like, you know something, I completed my degree. I passed my boards. I went to that interview. I nailed that job. Hey, I was struggling and I wanted to lose weight and I lost 5 pounds. I hit a goal. You feel good about the accomplishment. And when your self esteem is steady, if someone looks at you and says, "Hey, have you been losing weight?" And you're like, "Yeah, like you look great." You feel good, but you're also willing to acknowledge the fact that you actually put the work in to get it. But on the flip side, you have some people who might get a promotion at work who legitimately have done the work and they deserve the promotion, but they don't feel like they're worthy of it for some reason. They won't look at their accomplishments of their individual work and drive, ambition, motivation. They just don't give themselves that kind of credit. But if somebody else comes along and strokes their ego, then they're like, yeah, yeah, dangerous place to be. If you feel like you got to have a cheer squad all the time in life to be able to embrace what makes you unique, you, but more importantly, your accomplishments and those moments of greatness you have. So self-esteem sits in the middle of the tree. The thing about it is, when you find the balance with self-worth and self-esteem, it springs into self-confidence. So self-worth is the root, self in the root and like the trunk of the tree. Self-esteem becomes the branches, and self-confidence are like the leaves that literally may come and grow. You may have abundance of them. Other times they may, change with the season. But the thing is, you feel that you have the ability to achieve so many things. So that was the nice, graphic that was for this episode that I wanted to kind of dig deeper in. And there was a reason that I chose it. But just like it's important to know how these things are similar, let's be sure to acknowledge what makes them different. If you recall, as I was talking about each, I said that self worth is internal and versus self esteem is external. So you are compelled within to have compassion, you have self awareness, you value yourself, you know you're good. And what you will never hear yourself, even in your moments of failure, you won't hear yourself say, I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough. I wasn't worthy. Because when you have self worth, even when you make a mistake, you will be accountable and say, "Ooh, I really messed that up this time. That was, ooh, not my best work. I messed up. I got to own that. I got to be accountable. I know I can do better." And then you set forth to do exactly that. Whereas self esteem, when it's external and you're looking for someone else to validate you or tell you what your worth is, you often don't have the ability to step back and say, "Oh, wow, okay, I made a mistake. I can bounce back from that. I can get up." If they don't, for some people, if someone doesn't tell them they can bounce back, they don't believe it. One of the things I always see in therapy, and it literally drives me crazy, is there's such a lack of self-worth. When other people have struggled, do you know how many people are waiting for someone else to come and save them? And obviously I can't say it as a therapist directly like that, but I want to be the one to flat out tell you the only person who can save you is you. And within you is that self-worth, value. It might be your spirituality, whatever it is. But you are aware that whatever the hardship you are going through, that you're going to have to be the one who's going to dig in your heels and do the work to progress forward. Now, what that doesn't mean, and don't get it twisted, is that there's not support, that there can't be people that help you on that journey. But the problem is too many people want to lean real deep into other people, making the assumption that those people are going to be the ones that are going to be able to make the change for them. The change comes from within. The outside might just be the thing that motivated you a bit. A lot of times I'll hear this in therapy, and I don't tell people necessarily that it's wrong, but I tell them we might need to have a shift because at one point that may not be enough. When someone will tell me, because I'm also not just a licensed clinical professional counselor, I'm also a certified alcohol and drug counselor. When I work with people specifically with addiction, and often they will say to me, I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this for my spouse. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, and you're not going to get to where you need to be because you're not doing it for you. The thing I say to people constantly in therapy is that when you are the best version of you, every single part of your life just blossoms. So your relationships will improve. You will be better at your job, your relationship with your kids, all those things improve because you have invested in you. You see your worth and your value. And whenever you cultivate you, the light shines so bright, it falls into every other aspect of your life. And the thing about it is, it's hard. And I don't say that is that it's an easy task. That's why I can respect people who show up in therapy because everyone who shows up in therapy, it's not about being crazy. There's something in their life that they need to work on. And I always say, your therapy space is where you can feel safe and unjudged and work on things and know whatever it is you say to me. And people are like, oh, I'm sure this is the worst thing you ever heard. And I'm like, no, no, it's not, but it doesn't matter because if you feel that way, we got to unpack why you feel that way because I want you to get to the point where you no longer need to walk through my door. That's my purpose to get you to where you need to be. And let's be honest, sometimes we can't say those things to our family members, to our friends, because inherently we can all say that we are not judgmental, but as creatures, us humans, we can be a little judgmental, even when we're trying not to be. In the back of your mind, you're saying, you know that wasn't right what you did, or you know that's stupid, or you're so stupid. You may not say it out loud, but you have a thought when somebody says something that seems really asinine to you. Like, why would you do that? And it's hard not to be judgmental, especially if you're in situations where you have been a person's support for a long time and they keep making the same mistakes. And this is one of the things I talk with people about when they get really upset with their family and their friends who seem like they have started to back away because they're repeating the same mistakes. And often this can be with substance abuse or there can be some behavioral issues. And people start to push back and push away. And they become angry with them. And I look at them and I said, you do realize they have gone through the motions with you so many times. If you think what you feel they don't feel, it's not the same feeling. But when you have despair, when someone loves you, they also have despair. And they are getting to the point where they are putting up a boundary. Because if they feel they can't fix you, and often people, guess what? We can't fix other people. We can only be their support. We can only fix ourselves. They start to put their hands up and say, if I don't put this wall up, just like you are slowly drowning or burying yourself, if I'm not careful, I'll go down with you. And I'm not doing that because I also have to preserve my emotional and mental health. I'm willing to be there and cheer you on and give you support, but I'm not going to do your heavy lifting. A lot of people get highly offended with people who draw a line in the sand because they get to the point of no return. Like, I can't fix this for you. All I can do is try to help you. And that's when I understand that people are not in that space of doing that work, that self awareness to get it isn't just about you all the time. And people have a right to have self preservation. That's a toughie, and a lot of people struggle with that. So knowing the difference about internal influence and external influence is the thing that really makes the difference. And I'm going to look at you and tell you this is not easy by any stretch of the imagination. It's not, but it's work. And I always applaud and commend all my people who show up in therapy and don't worry about the stigma and what other people might think, because what other people might think is probably the reason you're struggling. Just saying. And at some point, you got to be like, why am I worried about what they're thinking when internally I'm falling apart? I'm trying to do the work on me. I got to learn to put me first. That's the thing. And that's when I know that people are ready to do the work when they finally say, I'm ready to put myself first. It's a scary proposition, but I guarantee you it's worth the risk. It is the one risk you will make. Episode either 65 or 66 is about the economy of self, and the other is about self compassion. Can't remember which one is which. They're worth a listen because they really start to frame up if you struggle with putting yourself first, but you feel like you're emotionally and mentally continually drowning. These two episodes will give reasons why, hey, if you see a life preserver, if you see somebody putting their hand out, why you need to take it. So take a listen to those two episodes. They're totally worth it. So let's talk about the action behind things. So it isn't easy to cultivate self-worth. So I'm gonna break it down really simply on this one. The external influence can be heavy upon us because as we enter this world as infants, all we know is what is presented to us. So our family becomes the example that we think we're supposed to follow. We often call it when children look at adults or their parents, we call it scaffolding, that they look to build and climb the way that they see the adults in their life. Because let's be honest, as children, we don't necessarily know right from wrong until we get old enough to figure out maybe something's not right. But we take in a lot of other people's values and we let them often decide our worth. So this is sad when a child will feel that they're not good enough because no matter what they do for their parents, they're always scolded. There's not enough nurture and celebration of who they are. You must strike balance with children because, yes, it's important when they make a mistake to help them understand it, but do it with compassion so they can learn from it, which then makes them better communicators, but also helps them to have better social skills. Because when they fail or make a mistake, they can know it's okay to be accountable and not feel like they have to cover up or lie or hide because they think that other people will criticize them. So a lot of our self-worth as children is totally external. It's not until we begin to mature as adults and we begin to step into the world and all of a sudden I say our emotion and mental ecosystem expands because it's no longer just about family. And you always had friends maybe along the way, but you kind of move into bigger and you move in bigger spaces. I'm not going to say circles because remember I said before circle versus cage. So I'm going to say you start moving in spaces because you can choose to leave a space. Circle's a little, something you kind of put around you because you want it there. So when we start to experience life through other lenses, that's when often young adults will not always bring forward the values they had shared with their parents. I met plenty of people who will be like, I don't agree with that. My parents think that, but I don't. I just don't agree with that. And it's because they've learned something, they've experienced something that's begun to shape them. Their values are changing. And it doesn't mean that all their values will change, but there are some things that are unique to them that maybe they just don't share with their family or certain friends. This is why friend circles can change over time as well. As you mature, you may not find you have the same thing in common with people as you did before. And that's okay. There's no harm, there's no foul. But a lot of people kind of struggle with, they think they're going to have friends for life. Well, not necessarily. So as you grow and experience things, those external influences, you may begin to shut them out because you become more self aware. And this is where beginning to be self aware, then that can turn into compassion. And then that can be worth to know that despite what people may have told you, this is where trauma and abuse can be so hard for adults because it's so deeply rooted that if you were told that you were not good enough, I mean, I've had people, I'm just going to say this candidly, who have told me in therapy and working with them, and I've had friends whose parents had told them, "You're not shit. You're not gonna be shit." Okay, let's be honest. If someone's talking to you like that is a child, it takes some heavy lifting to get from underneath that burden of hate, and that's hard. That's why when people do the work, I can appreciate the fact that they're going on a journey that's not going to be easy. But I always say, if you stay the course, you're going to step on a path that's going to feel a lot different. And what is going to make you sad is when you look back and maybe understand what you have to leave behind to walk in your light of joy and your light of truth. A lot of people struggle with self-worth might mean that you have to leave people behind because they're toxic, negative, do not have your best interest at heart, they're self-serving. Okay, those things don't work for you. And you can't change people. So you may have to leave some baggage behind. And a lot of people sometimes will choose to not leave it behind, and their entire life will never turn into what it's supposed to be because they valued someone else over themselves. Their self-worth was not strong enough so they could choose themselves. There's a saying that I absolutely love that says comparison is a thief of joy. I think Roosevelt said it. Um, Theodore Roosevelt. And it's true. And this is why self-esteem can be wavering because you accomplish something, right? And you're feeling good. You're feeling yourself, right? You feel good. And then you see somebody else and you're like, oh, and all of a sudden you just start comparing yourself and what you did is no longer good enough. That's a disservice to you. I always tell people we are all unique. Look, there's some things in life that we're gonna have to learn to accept about ourselves, and then we work on ourselves to be our best versions. Like, look, I'm never gonna be any taller. I'm never going to be that really skinny person. I got a list of things that I would love to see different about myself, but they're not changing. They are not immutable. I can't change them. But I look at all the things about me that makes me and unique, and I work that angle. I'm like, look, you got to work you. As busy as you trying to do somebody else, chances are you're going to always be unhappy because you're never going to attain certain things. This is why I don't like when I hear sayings like keeping up with the Joneses. I always say, like, who the hell are the Joneses and why is anybody keeping up with them? That's the first thing. And the Joneses probably aren't even who you think they are. The other one that I want people to throw right out the window, the door, wherever, flush it down the toilet is fake it till you make it. No, be who you are in the moment. So you can be familiar with what are your strengths, your weaknesses, what you want to change about yourself, and then you work on achieving those things. Don't wear a mask for the sake that you feel it's not good enough for somebody else. That's a problem. And when people say stuff like that, I'm like, pump the brakes. No, be you and be good with it. Because if you have higher aspirations, then guess what? You just put the work in to do it. Those kind of sayings, just to me, they're external influences that can be negative reinforcement, and they mislead and they're inaccurate because they're not basing things on people's ability and worth. They're not embracing who you are or what the best are you in the moment. And that's something that I feel like people have to think about. So when we talk about this being a toolbox episode, one of the things that I want you to think about, here's the takeaway. How do you assess your perception of your self-worth and self-esteem? One's external, one's internal. I want you to look at yourself and legitimately say, do I really love myself? And if you say no, you better start asking why. Two, do you believe that you are lovable and you deserve to be loved? And there's no caveat of why, if I love you, it's because of this. That sounds like somebody who needs to exit your life. Do you feel worthy of respect? Do you feel that you are worthy of being appreciated and celebrated for who you are in the moment and not who you might be? It's great to have aspirations, to grow, to want to be a better version of yourself. But sometimes I need people to give themselves a nice warm hug about who they are in the moment. Like, girlfriend, we got some work to do, but you do it. Hey, bro, you doing this. You working hard. Are trying to tell you what you can't do. You got this. You can do this. Give yourself a hug in the moment because that's what self-compassion teaches you. You're not always going to be stellar. Sometimes you're just going to be average. There might be some days where you're below average. Take it and be like, not my best day, but there's always tomorrow. And that's what's important. Being optimistic about it. Something else that needs to be in the toolbox, by the way, is optimism. Because right now, we're kind of living in a world where optimism is being drowned by so many negative things. It's so toxic right now in the world. The thing is, there's so many people out there that are positive. We need to get together collectively. That's the thing. So I need you to assess, I really need you to assess your self-worth. And then the self-esteem part, the external. I want you to ask yourself, what are the external influences that often impact the way that I feel about myself? Is it my work performance? Is it that all my friends think I'm highly intelligent? Is it in my family? I'm the go-to person and that makes me feel good. Like, what are the things but externally that you feel they pour into you? Now, this pouring into you part is something we talk about in the Economy of Self episode. I need you to be careful about what people are pouring in your cup, because it may not be something that you want to partake or drink. And I think people don't think about that. It's one thing, someone could be totally pouring BS into your cup. You're not trying to consume BS. Someone could be trying to pour fluff into your cup. You're not trying to consume fluff. You want sustenance. So you got to be careful if people are faking what they're trying to feed you under the guise that they are supportive and loving. You should know at this point what support and love feels like. If it don't feel right, chances are it's probably wrong. But a lot of times people struggle with that. That's the thing. That's the takeaway. That's what I want you to start to think about. When you think about self-worth and self-esteem, that's how I want you to begin to do the assessment. How do you value yourself? Do you respect yourself? Do you respect the decisions that you can make and you don't feel that you need other people to come behind you and to affirm what you're thinking or what you want to do? Don't confuse this with you're not asking for constructive criticism. Oh, bad word. Constructive feedback, because criticism is something that should not exist. Feedback's not always positive, but it shouldn't be critical. So you may go to somebody and say, I need to pick your brain about something I'm thinking about. That's different. That's healthy. That means you're open to feedback. That's a good social skill. That's good communication. That's when you know you're using stuff in your toolbox. When you can take feedback without jumping in your feelings. Like when someone has to tell you something that you may not like, if you instantly get defensive, you need to think about, why did I get defensive? They needed to discuss something with me. I need to listen before I draw a conclusion if somehow it's a scathing indictment about me as a person. So these are the kind of things you got to notice about yourself. Can you only feel good about yourself when someone is giving you a round of applause. If this is where you stand, this is not good. Self assessment about worth and esteem is your homework coming out of this episode. All right, everybody. This is going to be a shorter episode. I have decided I'm trying to get episodes shorter because I think sometimes people are like, I like listening to her, but she talks too much. So I figured I gave you the nuts and bolts of what you need to think about. So before I break out, there's something I want to share with you that's important. I'm excited because there will be episode 68 on Saturday. Kicking off this Saturday will be the ambition shows. And if you heard me talk about this before, this is something that I wanted to begin to weave into the show. Maya, my ambition, your ambition. I wanted to bring people on that could talk about how they took their passion and their purpose and drove it home with ambition. And each one coming on is going to share with you whether they have created something, they work with people, but they're doing something that's dynamic that makes them altruistic. Because the thing about purpose is wanting to leave your footprint on the world and to help people, it's beyond you. Whereas often passion is more internal and can be wavering. These people have found something that's so unique and they want to share something with the world. And so, 4 episodes in August, starting on August 2nd, is the Ambition Shows. It's going to be at 2 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. And the first guest on the show, I cannot wait, is going to be Tamar Blue, who's the CEO of Mental Happy. Her story is so unique and it's crazy because it started in high school. And it started in an event that when she talks about it, everybody is going to know about. Her passion became finding ways for people to find support, and she made that into a purpose. And Mental Happy is a support app. And literally, whether you're looking for a support group, and they've got support groups for everything. They got support groups for if you're grieving from a breakup, you've got disgruntled family issues, you have a problem with your boss. There's a support group for everything on there. So, if you're looking for a support group that you often couldn't find, you might want to check out the Mental Happy app. But let's just say you've always wanted to create your own support group. You can do that as well. But you want to hear her story, and she can tell you more about how the platform works and the value of it and how it's different than just creating maybe a talk group on Google Meets or even Zoom, which there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But this is actually a little different. If you're looking to kind of level up what you're trying to do, this might be a space that's going to work for a lot of people who have been looking for a way to maybe connect with more people or connect more people. So you definitely want to make sure that you tune in this Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. The first phase of the Ambition Show is going to be Tamar Blue. She is the CEO of Mental Happy, and I am so excited. I think you guys are all going to be absolutely you're going to love her story. And when you hear how it came about, you're going to say, wow, this is something that was a long time coming and very, very, very much needed. All right, everybody, as I said, I was not going to linger. I was going to make this short but sweet. So as always, I've got to do my wrap up stuff. So just remember that you can find all episodes of Maya in iTunes, the Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audibles, and Spotify. Those are all pretty much podcast platforms that everybody knows, or you can just search Maya, My Ambition, Your Ambition. Of course, you can listen to episodes of Maya, My Ambition, Your Ambition. You can always just go to the easy way to kind of find them. There's links actually on www.maya-speaks.com. You can just go to the podcast page and click. You can go right to the link of whatever your podcast platform is. I would also like to encourage you all to subscribe and share my YouTube channel, which is Maya Speaks to You, as well as that is my Facebook page, Maya Speaks to You. So subscribe and share. I may not be saying something that may not be pertinent for you, but I feel like there might or could be someone in your life that could get some value from what I'm saying. So like when I said subscribe and share, it's not just because, oh, I want you to make me famous. No, not at all. But my goal is, the reason I podcast is I want to share my message with so more people beyond just in therapy. That's one-on-one, which I love, but there's so many other people who need encouragement. And I like to share those things. But of course, remember, like I said, for all things Maya, you can always just visit www.maya-speaks.com. Make sure you tune in this Saturday for episode 68. Like I said, it's going to have on Tamar Blue, who's the CEO of Mental Happy. I think you will absolutely enjoy every minute of it. And the month of August has a lot of dynamic people coming on to share their story. So make sure you don't miss it. But if you do, there's always going to be a way that you can catch it my podcast, YouTube, or on the podcast platforms. All right, everyone. I'll see you on Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Ciao.
Whether you're on the go or listening on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop, you can find the show in the iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio platforms.
With all due respect, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and get ready to be inspired and motivated to harness your ambition.